good evening and welcome to another episode of Off the Print. This week in discussion with me is a very senior Indian politician, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who is in Colombo for 2 days. Dr. Swamy has arrived in Colombo on an invitation extended by a very good friend of his, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Dr. Swamy, thank you so much for joining me on the program. So I'm going to start right away. You have been dubbed as one of the most controversial politicians in South Asia. You are very vocal in things very close to your heart. For example, in economics, in politics, you say it as it is. How did you earn that title of the most controversial politician?
Well, if you look at my record from, say, 1970 when I entered politics till today, that makes it almost 50 years. For which I was considered controversial between 1970 and 1990, I'm no more considered controversial. For example, I said at the time in 1970, socialism will not work in India. Soviet Union is not a good partner for us. India should strive to be on its own feet, but have good relations with its neighbors, and be a pole in a triangle of United States, China and India. And it was considered highly controversial. And people thought I lost my senses and all kinds of things. Especially the Soviet lobby was dead against me. And they were all over the place, in the media, in the universities and so on. And so at every stage, controversial. Now what does controversial means? So it was just that the establishment view was not my view. But in the end, the Soviet Union cracked up into 16 countries, and China grew. India also gave up socialism and embarked on a free market growth rate of 8-9%. And so by 1990 onwards, nobody ever criticized me for being critical of the Soviet Union or saying that 3.5% growth rate is the Indian, what the leftists used to call it the Hindu rate of growth. It's now we are 8% and we have open market, given up socialism. Now, since then, what is the second controversy? I had said, and this irritated my liberals in America, I said that, you see, we Hindus are divided into caste, regions, language, this thing, that. I mean, what for? And Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, all of them have the same DNA, and I'm willing to show journals of publications which said so. We have the same DNA. So when I said Hindus and Muslims are the same DNA, a lot of Hindus were agitated with me. And liberals were agitated that I was talking about having a united Hindu front. Give up your caste, because I said no one is a Brahmin unless he has those gunas, because the Gita says so. But now nobody is talking about that. Now even Priyanka is going there doing bhajans in Varanasi just now. Rahul Gandhi says, I'm a Brahmin, and he wears a janeo. I don't wear a janeo, by the way, but the world calls me a Brahmin.
But you are from the ruling BJP and you do have critics even within your party.
Yeah, but that's got to do nothing with ideology. Ideology, I'm the leader of the BJP. Whatever I say is what the workers want. I wanted Ram Mandir, I got it done. I wanted to save Ram Setu, I got it done. I wanted temples to be freed. I've begun the process. Many temples have been freed. So that was the issue is not on the core ideology of the BJP. The issue is I should not speak out of turn. Now, what does that mean in a democracy? You see, democracy is a battlefield for ideas. And if the party doesn't have forums where you meet and debate, then the obvious for me to go to the public and say, or the Prime Minister makes numerical errors. He says we'll double our GDP in 5 years to 5 trillion. That means a 14.8% growth rate, which we have not attained anywhere near it so far. So he should tell us how. Yes. Or he says makes these then I'm today considered controversial because I'm saying the Chinese have occupied our territory. Prime Minister says nobody has come in our territory. So people say this man is speaking against the Prime Minister, therefore is controversial.
Yes.
If criticism, dissent becomes controversial, then you are just playing into the old British trick of regarding Gandhi, Savarkar, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, all these great leaders, Subhash Chandra Bose, Sardar Patel, as mavericks, as controversial. So, and I'm not afraid of that title.
Dr. Swami, you've been a very close friend of Mahinda Rajapaksa for a very long time.
Yes.
And in fact, if I am correct, Mahinda Rajapaksa visited India on your invitation when he was in the opposition.
That's right. And addressed a public meeting.
Yes. What makes you so close to Mahinda Rajapaksa? How do you all get along?
I think he's a jewel. He's a mighty soul, because single-handedly he made a decision to eliminate the LTT. The LTT was the most dastardly, dirty, leftist, terrorist organization. They even put me on a hit list. Only that I also put Prabhakar on a hit list. And I told LTT supporters, I'll see who goes first, and he has gone first. So he wiped out the LTT. He has done a service to not only Sri Lanka, not only India, but to the world over, how terrorism in your country can be eliminated.
But Dr. Swami, you do know that the Sri Lankan government, led by Mahinda Rajapaksa back then, are facing allegations of human rights violations. There are allegations that innocent Tamil civilians were also wiped out in the final stages of the war.
Tears come to my eyes with your question.
What
in
can
World
you say
War
about
II,
that? Because you yourself are coming from a majority Hindu party.
No. Well, I know, but let me ask you. During World War II, did not innocent citizens get killed when the Americans dropped 2 atomic bombs in Japan, Nagasaki and Hiroshima? I think 4 million people died. They were all roasted. The sight was horrible. What wrong did they do? When the British bombed in Germany a town called Dresden, where there were no Nazis, they killed the entire, flattened that city, killed the entire population. Nobody said a word. I mean, you are in a war, and the LTT puts the civilians in front of you, or the civilians are clandestinely helping the LTT. Now, how can you, these are all what is they call as corollary to fighting the enemy. If you are fighting the LTT, they are hiding, they are cowards, they don't come on the open Maidan. They hide, they sometimes attack, then run away. So, in that circumstance, collateral damage has taken place in all wars.
Dr. Swami, we're just going to go in for a short break. We'll be right back. We are in conversation with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Off the Print. Today we are in discussion with Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who is a senior Indian politician and who is presently in Colombo on an invitation extended by a good friend of his, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Dr. Swamy, in your previous answer, you told me that collateral damage had happened in all wars. But Sri Lanka seems to be bearing a little bit more brunt towards it because we are facing severe allegations of human rights violations in its final stages of the war. Do you think that it is fair to name Sri Lanka like this and pull them up for violations when they themselves were in a war for 30 years?
No, you tell me, has not India been dragged in by that same Human Rights Commission on Kashmir? Which countries escaped? The left wing targets people who are not left wing, and they are dominating UNESCO, they are dominating WHO, they are dominating UN, the UN agencies, and it has been done systematically when the Soviet influence was at a maximum. These are all leftovers of that who are occupied. So I think we cannot go by the allegations of the West. We have to have a internal audit. Let the opposition produce a list of people who were deliberately shot when something like Dresden had happened, or a bombing, not like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because you don't have nuclear weapons, but that kind of thing, disregard. Here is an enemy which is hiding behind civilians and firing away. You can't expect the people to say, till the civilians get out of the way, we are not going to fire back. You fire. And most of these atrocities that have happened according to these enemies is that where the civilians have been killed not by people entering the houses and shooting them, but on the field where the LTT has been hiding behind them and shooting at them.
Right. Dr. Swamy, at the UNHRC sessions just a few months ago, India did not vote for Sri Lanka.
I know.
And there are allegations that India may have influenced other countries in the region as well not to vote for Sri Lanka. You are very vocal, praising the Sri Lankan government, especially Mahinda Rajapaksa, for ending the war.
Yes.
So why is it that India did not support Sri Lanka in the
Because
UNHRC?
our bureaucrats are looking for Western approval of their statesman-like position. Our bureaucrats are crazy for their children to be educated in the United States. I thought that was despicable. I also thought that our voting for Hamas in the UN was even more despicable. And this search for Western legitimization of ourselves by some Indians suffering from deep inferiority complex, that is behind it. But the public of India, I demonstrated when I invited Rajapaksa when he was at the lowest moment of his political life, having lost an election. And I invited him. His colleagues were all telling him, no, you can't go. You don't know what dangers you will see in India. It's an hostile situation. I said, I am there, and I'm responsible. And not only he came, he moved freely. He addressed an open public meeting which was jam-packed. The biggest auditorium in Delhi was jam-packed with audience, with all the diplomat staff, everybody there. And I think it naturally increased his self-confidence. So I would like to say that don't listen to criticism. If you think that this is good for your country and you've been elected to decide what is good for your country, do it. And the result today is there's peace and quiet in Sri Lanka. Do you remember that your foreign minister, who was a Tamil, was killed while he went swimming in his own backyard?
Yes.
By the LTT? How many Tamils the LTT killed? Amritalingam, that Neelam Tiruchelvam. I can give you a list of the most democratic-minded Tamilians of Sri Lanka who were killed by the LTT, and yet they say this is a fight between Tamils and Sinhalese. How is it a fight between Tamils and Sinhalese? Both of us have the same DNA. We came from the same place. One came from North India, another came from South India. That's the only difference.
Your friend Mahinda Rajapaksa, while he has a lot of fame here, he also has his own critics. Right now, as we speak in Colombo, Dr. Swamy, the cost of living is soaring outside. Yeah. It's gone tremendously up. We see a lot of criticism on social media asking the government either to bring it down or to resign.
No,
where do you think Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa is going wrong? I'm asking you this
I'm
because
an economist,
you are a professor of economics.
Tell me one country in the world where Corona has hit as badly as it has hit.
But is the Corona only reason for countries to suffer
not countries.
soaring cost of living?
In economics, we are told, I'll simplify it for you, if the demand is more than supply, then there will be inflation. All right. Now, in India, we have inflation, but the demand is less than supply. So people are shocked, is economics gone haywire? No. because it's a sum of total the surrounding. If the supply is such that it is not part of that demand which is most essential for the people, the essential products will go up. Look at the petrol price in India, as much as double what it is in Sri Lanka. I have in fact jokingly said Ravan Sri Lanka has better petrol prices than Rama's India, you see. There was a big uproar, then I have debased Lord Rama and so on. So I think that yes, there is inflation. There's inflation in China, there's inflation in India, there's inflation in the United States of America. I don't know of any country except where the people live off the trees, wherein there is no inflation. But you can't make a man resign because of totality of circumstances are not his fault.
Dr. Swamy, you are aware that just close to the Colombo port,
Yes.
the Chinese are building the Colombo port
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
Do you think Indian companies should make use of this opportunity and come and invest in the port city?
I don't know about Indian companies, because some of the Indian companies come, I'll never recommend them anywhere, including in India. But that's your internal matter, I'm not going to discuss it. But the Chinese were given this because the Indians won't reschedule the payment of past loans which were incurred during the previous administration. So he had no alternative, because he couldn't pay the Chinese except by saying, you take a little bit of this and a little bit of this. So once it is ready, if China has a leader who wants to live in harmony with India and in Sri Lanka, I think the three of us can do a lot.
Dr. Swamy, we are just going to take a small break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Off the Print. With me is Dr. Subramanian Swamy, a leading senior Indian politician who is presently in Colombo. Dr. Swamy, just before we went in for a short break, we were talking about ties between India and China and Sri Lanka. India has been focusing more on cultural ties and people-to-people exchanges with the Sri Lankan government, especially the Rajapaksa government. Is it because India cannot compete with the economic power of China and what China is bringing here?
Well, Chinese methodology is superb if you want to get a country into your control. They first give you loans easily, and then suddenly you find that the project is not generating funds. Then they get a little tough and say, give me a little piece of land here, let me, So I don't think we want to do business this way. Secondly, there has been an error of calculation by our foreign minister and our national security advisor on how to deal with Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has to be dealt by giving them all encouragement to do what we think is right. And any help they want, we should agree. For example, Rajapaksa, after becoming Prime Minister, came to Delhi especially, first visit, and said that, you see, we have got now, I am just fine that we have inherited a big debt to China and a big debt to you. So can you please reschedule your repayments and let me liquidate the Chinese debt, and then I'll come back to liquidating debt to you. We just waffled and did nothing. And all that we had is our foreign minister coming strutting here, our national security advisor coming strutting here, and their behavior in the past was also not good. During your last election before Rajapaksa, in which Rajapaksa lost. And the Americans also wanting Rajapaksa to fail, they have told me personally, my friends in American government have told me, why the hell are you so friendly with him? I said, he killed the LTT, which you didn't do. And now I'm a free, we are all free people because of that. And he is straight, he talks straight, he is frank, he keeps commitments. He's a different kind of politician.
But Dr.
So
Swamy,
now, go on.
His fame did drop in 2015 when he was voted out of power.
Yeah.
Where do you think Mahinda Rajapaksa went wrong?
He didn't go wrong at all. The people fell for it. I am telling the Tamil population also, being a Tamil, listen, he is the man who can do something for you. Those other people just speak. Now the Tamils are coming around. And I am finding even today one deputy mayor of Muslim had come to see me, and he wanted me to get some work, wanted me to put in a word with Mr. Gotabaya, which I did, about some things that need to be done in his constituency. I said, what about the others in the opposition? They should be raising this. He said, no, now we know the only man who will do anything is this Rajapaksa brothers, and so therefore you being their friend, I came to you. Now, that recognition now is come. You want to work, Rajapaksa delivers. And at that time there was a huge international coordination in India also, where we are drunk with power in India. I'm sorry to say, after 2014, now nobody else matters. Even Indian members of our own party doesn't matter. We don't need to hold party meetings. We don't have to do anything. That kind of hubris came over. And at that time, we also came and gave the opposition satellite phones and many other things. It was a all wrong thing to do. And he lost. But look at the brave man. He came back. Most people after this kind of defeat would go slink away and saying, let me protect my skin. But he didn't. And he came to India at my invitation, and how he spoke, how audiences were swayed. You should see that video of that. So therefore, I think 2015 is only made the people realize that henceforth we should not part company with Rajapaksa.
You've had discussions with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa while you were in Colombo.
Yes.
How fruitful were those discussions?
Oh, very big, because here two friends are talking one-to-one, nobody else around, no briefs, no pre-advancing, giving what are you going to raise, etc. So we talked very frankly. I learnt a lot.
Where do you see Sri Lanka's future, Dr. Swami, under the current regime?
I think once this corona has come under control, we will turn around very fast. And I think India is now beginning to realize, and the recent moves of India shows that it's a strategic island. Rajapaksa can be nobody's slave. But he says, India is my family. I mean, what more can a man say? Hey, India is my family, Chinese are only my friends. I mean, what a tribute to India. And he's celebrating yesterday Navratri, which is, not a Buddhist ceremony. It's a Hindu. So, and of course, he does also other religious ceremonies. So, I think he will get a lot of international support. And I think Sri Lanka's position as a critical factor in the Indian Ocean will be highlighted once the economy here improves.
Dr. Swami, I thank you so much for joining us on Off the Print, and may you continue to be vocal and dubbed as the most controversial man in South Asia, and of course a politician as well. Thank you so much.
I'll surely enjoy that.
Thank you. That's all we have for you this week on Off the Print. Please join me again next week for a brand new episode. Good night.